Bakker, naturopath from New Zealand. Thank you for coming back to this channel. I often talk about stress in my videos, and that's probably because I spent many years studying the adrenal function and thyroid function and working with many patients, particularly with a stress axis problem, hypothalamic pituitary adrenal problem, for example. I've worked on thousands of patients like that over the year, say the last 15 years in particular. Stress plays a fundamental role when it comes to weight. You'll often find people that struggle to lose weight, particularly when they're big, going into obese states. They just can't seem to lose weight. They struggle so much. They have all these issues. I've worked with many people over the years helping them to lose weight, and one of the first things I look for with a patient like that is, what do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to ask them what they eat, of course, but the most important thing is I'm going to ask them how they live. What type of lifestyle do they lead? What type of relationship do they have? What type of occupation do they have? How do they handle other people? Is there one person whose butt they'd like to kick? Okay, that's a good question. And I always look at the facial expression of the patient when I throw these little questions at them, because the eyes give a lot away, and the body language. The unseen things are what cause more problems for many people than the seen things. Think carefully about what I said. The unseen things, okay? The intangible things make people sick, more so than the tangible things. Stress, you can't see, you can't feel it, you can't throw it under a microscope. Oh my God, look at that stress there. Okay, so it's basically swept aside. Not enough attention is paid to how much stress a person is living under and how they can mitigate, this situation. When they go to a doctor, it's, where does it hurt? Here's a pill. When they go to a dietitian, it's, shut up, eat this apple, goodbye. When they go to a psychologist, it's, here's some Prozac, I'll see you later. And that's about the extent of it, right? People never really get to explain the situation of their life or their job. And it's very interesting over the years when I've seen many people, I let them talk, and immediately a lot of larger people will talk about a problem they've got in their life. A problem. And often it's these problems that need sorting, because if they don't, the mind of the person will start creating issues for that person. They'll start getting all kinds of emotional issues and lots of cognitive dysfunction and many other issues. And of course, stress plays a major role in all this. But how does stress achieve all this? Stress achieves this particularly through the hypothalamic pituitary axis and how it affects the adrenals and the ovaries, but also the thyroid. So it all starts with how we feel and how we think. But particularly how we feel is the operative word, because the emotions of the person are the things that cause them the most amount of stress. And particularly the person closest to them is the one that causes the most amount of stress. Right? Don't forget that the emotional triggers are much more powerful than any other trigger. So trying to understand a person and where they're sitting, where they're coming from, what kind of stresses they face, what kind of relationships issues they face, what kind of occupational issues or whatever, friendship, social issues, these are things that need addressing because they affect the adrenal response greatly, especially when strong emotions come into it, like love or hate or fear or anxiety or depression. And of course, a dodgy stomach, a poor gut. As we know, the enteric nervous system, or the second brain, can really make the person feel bad. So the diet is a key thing to get right, to establish a proper connection between gut and the brain. But if we've got that sorted, and we've got a person with a lot of weight issues, we need to look at the stress. A calming kind of approach for that person. Some type of way to deal with the primary problem and to get rid of that problem. So here's what I'd like you to do if you're a larger person and you're watching this video now. I want you to get a piece of paper. I want you to write down the top 5 things that annoy the hell out of you. Okay, the things that if you could just wave them away or just wash them away, they'd be gone, and you would love that. So write those 5 things down. All right. Now there could be a person's name, could be your job, it could be your neighbor. Well, I don't care what it is. It could be a teenage son, whatever. Write those things down. Now, when you've got those 5, prioritize them. One's the top priority, and one's the bottom, and then work out that situation. Now that's a good thing to put aside and to look at regularly and to think, now how am I going to chip away at this? How am I going to get this sorted? It's no different from having a 100k mortgage and chipping away at it, and eventually you go, I'm freehold. Okay. Now the problems can be tackled in a similar way, because if they're not tackled, what happens is more problems get stacked on top of more problems. It's like the camel, and then all of a sudden we put a straw on the back of the camel, bang, the back's broken, okay? That's what happens to people all the time. That's why they end up at the doctor's office, right, with problems. 95% of doctor's visits don't need medications, all right, because most of these diseases are self-limiting. Stress causes more doctor's visits than any other problem. It's not my opinion. It's a professional opinion of the Medical Association. They know that stress causes problems, but they can't sell stuff or give the patient stuff to fix stress up. The adrenals need attention, people. They need attention because when the adrenals get worn out and tired, and medicine doesn't agree with me, they think that the adrenals will either work perfectly fine or not at all, but there's no in between. Well, if we look at the bell curve, we will know there's an in between. So if the adrenal glands get affected, it's serious for you because fatigue sets in, tiredness, anxiety, not wanting to do much, poor immune function, low blood pressure, dizziness, salt cravings, sweet cravings, weight gain. Weight gain is very common with fatigue and depression and anxiety. I find energetic people who are pumped up and feel good don't have a problem generally with weight because they burn it off. They're just mobile. But larger people, especially with mental health issues, it's not that way at all. So my recommendation is to get the adrenal glands checked out and sorted, and also thyroid, because these can really handicap you and hold you right back. So how we're going to achieve that now is we're going to show you a couple of techniques and things you can do to de-stress. But the number one, of course, is to find out what are the things that push your button. There's no point looking at things to relieve stress if the stress just stays there the whole time. It's got to be worked on. That's the intelligent approach, right? I think the most powerful way I've always taught people for the relaxation is the breathing. Right? We've spoken about this on many videos, about the parasympathetic nervous system, para or next to the sympathetic. The sympathetic, fight or flight, the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. So obviously we don't want to activate the gas pedal of stress, we want to activate the brake pedal of stress. And one of the most profound ways you can achieve that is through the very slow, deep breathing. Exactly what I taught my 19-year-old son who just passed his driving test. I took him to the testing station, and he sat there all nervous, so we went through a nice relaxed breathing routine just for a few minutes, 4 or 5 nice slow deep breaths. I want you to do the same, okay? So when you get in a stressful situation, or you've got a stressful person that you have to meet with, or you're going to pick up the phone, it's your mother-in-law and your heart's like racing, okay, or whatever it is, before you go into this situation, 3 or 4 nice, very slow, deep breaths. And what you'll find is as you're going into that meeting or that phone call, you'll feel already a couple of pegs down. You won't be already amped up, ready to ching to open your mouth and say something you might later regret. All right? So it's all about backing off and breathing, and that slows the heart rate down. It also makes the mind a lot more capable of listening rather than firing off information. Okay? So it's all about that. Breathing is such a simple thing to do, but nobody really does it properly. They don't breathe in through their nose. Don't breathe in through the mouth. Breathe in through the nose. In through the nose, out through the nose. You'll be surprised how much mouth breathing you do. And when you're stressed, your heart rate goes up a wee bit, your breathing goes up a bit, and also you're much more prone to anxiety. So that's a classically simple, easy way for you to de-stress, is take 3 or 4 slow breaths. That's number one. Number two, I'd like you to have a good look at how fast you walk and talk, or get your wife or partner, whoever, to observe you for a while and just see how rapid you are in execution of speech and different actions. Okay? And people under stress can tend to be too quick or move too quickly or speak too fast, or this is a common thing too. Or there could be the flip side. They could walk really slowly and talk slowly and act really depressed and things like that. And I know a few people like that too. So check out the locomotion or the movement of the person. Look at the sleeping pattern. Okay? Bigger people sometimes don't sleep properly. They wake up easily. They have sleep apnea, or they can't fall off to sleep through an anxiety issue or something like that. Again, this needs sorting. All right? Lifestyle needs sorting if you're a bigger person. Not just what you put in here, but it's also what you're thinking in here. You need to get it sorted. And if you're looking at this now and you've got a problem, get it sorted. Because often that's what's creating problems like comfort eating, okay? Being depressed. I saw it with my father eating 25 cookies in one session and dipping them in cups of coffee all day because he was really peeved off with his relationship, you know, and dad ended up dying of obesity with the hypertension on 4 medications. Onto his 5th marriage, I think he was. Okay? Oftentimes when there's a weight issue, there's a problem and it's not sorted. And the problem leads to more problems and more problems. And next thing you know, you go to Weight Watchers or all these things, and all you do is focus on your butt or your tummy. And it's a waste of time because you're not really looking at the original, you know, causes on why this thing happened in the first place, right? Many people get bigger over time, and they know they get bigger, but they're not willing to just say, let's do something about it. And eventually they get so big and older and they just let things go, and then they end up with all of the complications and anxieties. You know, the chickens come home to roost, basically. There's nothing worse than being a very, very big person in your 70s, okay? Because it's a very poor quality of life. But like anything else in life, if you plan properly, get into it early, you don't have to go down that route. Watch my video on antibiotics and obesity because there's a link there definitely as well. So, how to de-stress to lose weight. The breathing. The watching yourself, as I mentioned, you know, in different situations. And of course the eating, which I've spoken about in many other videos. If your eating is not right, it could also stress you out, right? I'm going to certainly be doing in 2020 a series of videos on things like adrenal fatigue and on low thyroid function and high thyroid function. So I'm going to branch out. My practice is finished in 2 weeks. Next year is going to be more of an educational year for me to teach people a lot more bits and pieces of things that I've picked up from all of the years I've seen patients. But I can tell you, leaving you with these parting words, stress is the archetypal etiology of disease. I'll say it one more time. Stress is the archetypal etiology. Now, what I meant by those 2 words, it's the mother of all causes of disease. It causes disease. Stress always causes disease if it's left unmitigated, if it's left alone. If it's like the global warming thing, okay? Everyone's talking about it, but no one's doing any damn thing about it. And of course, we can see what's going to happen in 20 years from now, right? So don't let it happen to you. Get on to it. You've got one life to lead, and there's no point leading a sick life when you're an older person. Thanks for tuning in. I always appreciate it.